Live tonight from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2021 season opener of the SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. We're happy that you're with us for another season of Monday Night RSR action here on RaceSpotTV. We're alongside Jonathan Burke as always. My name is Evan Pasoko. We're joined by our producer Hugo Luis and our RaceSpotTV and race reporter Dylan Coyle. And Jonathan, it is not the start per se of the speed weeks. We've been racing for a couple of weeks already in this Cup Series with a clash a couple of weeks ago, and of course the duels last Monday night here on RaceSpotTV. But tonight is finally the first points paying race of 2021. I know there is so much excitement around this 30-week championship, and it all gets kicked off here tonight.
Yeah, first time we're going to see a full grid of 43 cars out on track. First time we're going to see a lot of these guys getting a racy around each other. And first time we're going to see like maybe some major championship contenders racing around each other. A lot of the dual races we had a little bit of separation, but now we have like Freenage and Eberhardt coming from the back, as well as a lot of new faces at the front. It's very exciting just this race, but also throughout the season. Like, just the dual races by themselves. We had two guys that only had 11 starts win dual races, and I think it could be a sign for things to come.
It is exciting, and it's the first time in quite some years we are able to have a full speed weeks and qualify for this Daytona 250 in the traditional sense through duels and whatnot. So this field had to get capped for this series at 50 drivers. We're capped at 43 on a nightly basis, so there's already drivers who are going to be on the back foot. We're going to be talking about knockout qualifying, I think, for the better part of maybe the first half of the regular season, with that 43 driver cap being tight and eliminating some drivers. But at least tonight we took care of that last week with the duels. And you talk about, those new faces. There are drivers from outside of Real Sim Racing. We're going to come in here and try to fight a championship. Of course, the big storyline into this is Andrew Freenage, still a three-time defending Cup Series champion. But Jonathan, our point was the same thing going into the IRAPS Winter Series, where he was a two-time defending champion, but it was the newcomer Matt Danson who came in and won that title. Danson failed to qualify for this Daytona 250 after missing the starting grid for his duel and being unable to come back from behind late in that race. So an early setback for maybe one of your championship favorites. But I'm curious, who aside from Eberhardt, Danson, Freenage, Lariah, those names, can any of our true-blooded rookies enter that conversation and fight for the Full Throttle Cup this year?
It's going to really depend on what we see, I think, in these first few weeks. There's a couple, like, veterans, Kamer, Liam Sheen, and guys that really did impress me towards the end of that Winter Series that I think maybe can make a leap forward. David Washington, also one of them. Agnell Phillip, also one of them. There's a couple guys in that midfield that can make a leap forward. Now, in terms of rookies and newcomers, we need to see what they can do on the mile and a halves and the short tracks. This is a restrictor plate track where it's easy to grab a win, which that could be enticing for a lot of these newcomers because this is how we run the system. We have a playoff system.
And all you need is a win to get into the playoffs. Of course, we know the story of the Daytona International Speedway. We are plate racing today for 250 miles of action on the 31 degrees, three-story high banks of the World Center of Racing. So it is really going to be a daunting task. And I think one of the biggest challenges for the full field here tonight is going to be surviving to the end of this race. You want to be in the mix. We are capped. All 43 drivers scheduled for the grid are here with us. So let's go trackside for the first time this year and take a look at our SimSeats starting grid. So front row is from front row qualifying 2 weeks ago. So pole position was claimed by Adam de Blasio. He'll bring us to the green flag this evening alongside the number 32 of Nicholas Mara in second. Everybody else based on the duels. So duel number 1 winner, Trevor Trigo, will start from third alongside duel number 2 winner, Dane Cruz. You've got Joseph Tice and Jeremy Miller inside of your top 6 with Garrett Hess and Rhett McBride on row 4. Brian Chambliss will start 9th. Chris Rabel is your top 10.
Mutassi Major and Joe Yakes, a little bit of unknowns and newcomers starting on that 6th row. Michael Lariah, championship contender from last year, in 13th. Agnell Phillip, I talked about him already, in 14th. John Roden for Steel Horse Racing, a good mid-pack driver in the 33 and 15. David Washington in 16th. Michael Moser in 17th. Kyle Kamer in SK Sim Racing in 18th. This car start rolling. Look at row 10. Kyle Trudell is in the number 7 in P19, and Anthony Fredericks in P20.
Gary Weaver and Demarius Leschinski going to be 21st and 22nd. James Ross and Matt Mara through the number 24 spot. Behind them, Brandon Bowie and Sean Kalist, Sean Casto, Bradley Burke, Shane Parrish, and Ross Cato, your top 30.
Our very own Dylan Coyle in 31st, Thomas George in 32nd, Bobby Kruger, the 51, in 33rd, Nick Silver, a little bit of a change from the 24 to the number 3 this year, in 34th. Sam Nieto all the way down in 35th, and Liam Sheen in 36th. Eric de Blasio in the number 11 and 37, Stephen Price in 38th, and here we go. Andrew Freenot all the way in 39th. Can he make up some ground? Same with Grant Davis, a very consistent mid-pack driver, and same with Daniel Eberhardt, starting all the way in 41st, and Michael Kaczynski in 42nd.
Very bottom of the field, Tom Morano gets in after he initially failed to qualify, but Jaron Weinmaster, who raced in through his duel, was unable to make the start tonight. So Morano gets the call up, and he will be racing with us here from Daytona. It'll be a 30-week championship. Of course, the big story is every time we come to Speed Weeks in Daytona is it is the exciting start to a new season. We're happy to have SimSeats on board as our 2021 partner, and happy to be with you on RaceSpotTV. But a checkered flag at the end of the night could lock in our first playoff driver of the season. We're happy that you're with us as the pace car dives down and in. Let's go racing in 2021 from Daytona. Inside, the advantage off of turn number 4. The first bonus point of 2021 is up for grabs. De Blasio on the bottom. Here comes Mara up top. Give it to your pole sitter, Adam de Blasio, and we are off and away for the 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series. And there's going to be some rule changes and whatnot that we'll be talking about over the course of the year. And, you know, one thing about the drivers who missed this race that I think is important to note off for the top, Jonathan, the 7 drivers that failed to qualify for this, is this will not hurt their chances to fight for the playoffs, because a new rule is instead of having to participate in 10, you need to participate in 15 of the 20 regular season races and be top 25 in points for a win to lock you in. So that's why I said it could lock somebody in here tonight. That's just, I think, one of the biggest notable rule changes from the offseason. If you attempt to qualify for a race and you fail, that will still count as a start. So it does not hurt those drivers in that aspect. And very early on in this one, 5 cars up on the outside stay side by side. The rest of the field really spread apart. And now the 29 of Chris Rabel is going to fall back on the outside.
Yeah, I think some guys are trying to find their friends a little bit further down in the field. I know the Mara brothers were separated. We saw them working a lot together throughout speed weeks, and yet Mara is still on the outside. Nick Mara, that is. Matt Mara is still further down in the field. But I think some guys are trying to find a few friends, trying to sort themselves out in the draft, and maybe think long term. Remember, we got pit stops in this race, whereas in the duels, fuel mileage wasn't a problem.
It is a very different challenge, and of course racing in the afternoon going to be hot and slick, and to the point that you made right off of the very top, it's a full field, right? I mean, they have spread out just a little bit off of the start. That will help if you want to make it 250 miles, but you still need to keep your head screwed on tight on board there with Jeremy Miller, third in line on the outside, looking up to the 46 boosted Chevrolet of Dane Cruz. One other thing you'll notice this year, it's not a big difference here at Daytona, because last year in the opener we also ran 100 laps, but the races are longer this year. as we see Mara go top to bottom. Last year, the races were about 40% or so at the NASCAR Cup Series dates. This year, we are back to 50% races, so you will notice those longer races at those intermediate and shorter tracks as the calendar goes on. Cruz were the lead, went down to the inside of the racetrack, but now back up on top, pushed by Miller. He'll get right back and around Nick Mara, so his lead on the bottom going to be very short-lived.
I think I would be worried if I were the rest of the field and having that 27 up towards the front. He won at Talladega in the Winter Series. He says he's a super speedway star, and I think last week he kind of proved it as well in the duels. He navigated through all the trouble and just came up a little short, pushing that 46 to the victory, but I really don't want him up front.
I mean, you can see just how strung out all of them are. All 43 drivers did take to the green flag, so they are all in this one, and only the top 12 within a second of the race leader last time by as we go on board with Gary Weaver running in 12th position at the moment. He's already up 9 spots, so he's one of those drivers who wants to be on the move. Our friends at McConey Setup Shop on board his Chevrolet Camaro for this season opener.
A lot of new sponsors, a lot of new colors in this field. For sure, and I do like all the different colors and sponsors, although it'll make me forget a few of the regulars from the Winter Series every now and then.
Yeah, I gotta relearn them all. It's tough.
At least I got some time to get used to them during the clash and the duels. I got some time.
You see Gary pretty content right now with working on the bottom. There is only 2 cars right now up on the outside. That'll be the 82 machine of Munatsi Bajor, and behind him, that's the 84 machine of Garrett Hess pushing him up top. Other than that, everybody else tucked in line until you see those cars. The 23 machine of Matthew Mara on the outside. He is trying to bring some support to that outermost lane. Currently drafted with the 4 of Anthony Fredericks, but a little bit of ways to go until they can match up with the other duo up the road. And listen, that outside's an option, but you do need some strength in numbers. And there's your onboard look with the 23 of Matthew Mara as his drafted partner Fredericks left him and kind of on his own there.
I think right now the bottom is going to be the strongest point of the field just because of everyone's going to be really patient. Everyone's going to give room. When we check up going into corners, you know, everyone's going to be a little bit patient with it. I think as this race goes on, you're going to see more and more people like the top because you don't have that accordion effect as much going into these sharper corners. That's something that we saw in the duels that was really, really troublesome for a lot of drivers.
And it looks like he wants to keep going. Was in line out of necessity, but the second he got a run, went right back up to the outside, and this lead pack kind of breaks up at about 15th position. You can see Kyle Kamer, that green and yellow Ford Mustang, has got a bit of a difference from him to the back, and maybe that's where you split apart the first and second group. Lots of single file off to the back as we look out the rear of Jeremy Miller right now. The number 27 in the lead early in this Daytona season opener. For all of the changes that we have seen, there are just as many that have not. And the big thing, bonus point-wise, is there's always 2 available every night. 1 for a lap led, 1 additional for the most laps led. And it's probably going to be a lot of people walking away with bonus points in a race like Daytona. One of those races where you used to seeing a dozen different race leaders and maybe 24 lead changes over the course of the night. But I'm not sure we'll see any Denny Hamlin-esque dominance in this one. I think it's going to be a tad bit more competitive as that number 82 machine of Munatsi Bajor are going to come right back on him on the outside and will lead that time at the end of lap 9.
Yeah, now that outside line's starting to get some numbers, and I think Matt Mara was really, really trying to find his brother, and you know, the Mara brothers are together. They were working together all throughout speed weeks. They were practicing together. You know, they celebrated a big win in Clash, even though it was non-points race. I think they can be a threat when those 2 cars get together. They're basically teammates. You don't really want those 2 together.
And now this lead pack has gotten a little bit more frisky. 5 cars to the outside as Fredericks, de Blasio, and Mara have all gone up there to try to make some headway. It seems like it's been a pretty calm start to this Daytona 250, but somebody like a Fredericks up 15 spots. Matthew Mara up about 16 positions. So there are big movers, drivers making moves early in this season opener, but Take it easy, right? I mean, I feel like the side-by-side's good. I don't think anybody, Jonathan, is driving over their head right now. I kind of think that these guys are at a good spot as far as where that aggressiveness level is for this early on.
I think you just need to test the waters, though, at some point, because, again, we haven't had a full field of 43 as the 84 gets a little low there. We haven't had a full field of 43 cars. Some of these guys haven't raced against each other. It's just trying to feel it out. And speaking of feeling it out, let's head to our teammate Dylan Coyle, who's down a little bit further in the field at the moment. He's moved up several spots, though. He's at 25th. How you doing, Dylan?
He's so focused on the race that he forgot to unmute his mic. Or activate his push to talk. I don't know which one it is, but he's in the thick of things right now in P29 at the moment, up 2 spots, so making some moves. You can see for being in the 20s, that's some 3 wide up the road from him. The 9 of Thomas George is in the mix, the 95 of Bradley Burke and Daniel Eberhardt. So a couple of vets, 3 wide mid-pack right now.
You know, we kind of mentioned it when we went through the start a little bit, like Eberhardt and Freenach, they have to make up a lot of ground. Same with Mosier, same with Nieto, same with Brandon Bui. There's a lot of guys that did not really finish well in the duels and had some frustrating duels that need to move to the front. And I think Eberhardt and Freenach might be working together here for a little bit.
Wouldn't be shocked if you have those veteran drivers, the drivers who kind of know that pacing yourself in a race like this is probably a worthwhile cause. You know, if those guys hang back a little bit off of the get-go and certainly play the longer game. I mean, like I mentioned, we've been running 250 miles at Daytona all the time, so the longer races this year, not a huge surprise for a plate race. But it is easy, I think, when you're racing with a field that is this competitive, right? I mean, such a high iRating average for all the drivers in the field. And for how big the field is, maybe you can get coaxed into being a little bit too aggressive too early on, but I feel like even running 20s and 30s at the moment isn't awful. You know, it's just going to come down to not getting too far behind, because if we were to get the green flag pit stops, Jonathan, that's what was the difference maker just yesterday in the Daytona 500, right? I mentioned we're not going to see any Denny Hamlin-esque dominance. He was the best car by a lot, but when they really didn't execute the final pit stop that well, that was the difference maker. That's why he really didn't have a good look at the win. So the only thing I'm worried about, you know, 12, 13, 14 laps in to a 100-lap race is not falling too far behind. Just keep those leaders in touch, and I think you're in a good spot.
And also, you got to find some friends to work with. Like, you know, we're talking about the real race. Like, those guys have, like, the manufacturer ties working together. They have spotters coordinating everything. Here, you kind of have to find your friends. And unfortunately, for some of these drivers, they don't have teammates. You know, we have the Mara brothers who are at least teammates. There's SK Racing who are teammates, but I think is why Daniel Eberhardt's trying to get up here is because he's got 2 teammates close to the front. But, like, Freenach does not have teammates. There's a couple of these guys in here that are running as independents that may not have a couple teammates either, or may not have worked together. So I think you got to find who you're comfortable running with and try and figure out a plan together. There's probably a lot of talk over the comms about, you know, strategy and pit stops, because, you know, you can split this race even 33, 33, 33, and we're getting ever so close to that mark.
Yeah, we would, in theory, if somebody wants to think about that as a strategy, you'd be halfway there to making that call nearly at this point. So it is a good idea to, if you have teammates, right? I think the biggest teams that we have are closer to 3 or 4 teams in size. You're not going to see any of the teams that are, you know, NASCAR-wise, when you talk about manufacturer alliances, you're not going to get 8 Chevys to work together like you would in the real world. But it is good to have friends, and I mean that in a literal sense. Even if you don't have teammates, if you're a longtime veteran of this series, you know some of these guys, I think that's a good tie-in to be like, hey, let's, you know, work together and try to win this race. That is a big plate, or big part of plate racing, I should say, not a big plate of part racing. Big part of plate racing, the fact that you do need help. At the end, it is going to be everybody for themselves, but if you are the guy that's running everybody over and, you know, pushing people and blocking at this point, they're going to be a lot less inclined to maybe cut you a break later. So somewhere in the middle of that aggressiveness and timidness is a balance. I'm not the driver, so I can't tell you where it is. That's up for them to decide how aggressive they want to be. This group still all over each other, likes of Eberhard and company. You got Burke, Tice, and Coyle back there as well.
some guys in that bottom group getting a little antsy, trying to move up through it. Here's Bobby Krug in the 51, down a few places. He's just trying to ride. I think there's a couple guys back here trying to ride. Laria's back here, Nieto, I know his teammate is back here. There's just a couple guys that just kind of want to ride this out and see how it goes. Really want to avoid those racy guys in the mid-pack.
It's funny that, the front side-by-side, so they're not that calm, but you do have the guys in the back who are real chilled out, the guys up front who are, and sounds like a close call for that mid-pack there. So funny enough that's where those pucker moments are coming from early in this race, is the drivers that are kind of not up front, not in the back, just in the middle. It was a big slide by our Dylan Coyle, who was able to hang on to it.
And this is not a good representation of social distancing, though, where there's a lot of socializing and close contact.
They are very friendly, if I would say, early in this one. There's a move to the outside by the number 51 of Ishida, Bobby Krug. To the bottom, the number 11 of Eric de Blasio, the 2 of Sam Nieto. Familiar-looking looks for some of the best plate racers in NASCAR today, with the Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski paint schemes on the bottom, but the outside not going to work for Krug on his own. He will tuck back down in line, and here is this massive lead pack led by the Makoni setup shop Toyota of Nicholas Mara. Talking about some of the other events in Speed Weeks. It wasn't just the duels last Monday night. 2 weeks ago, we did our first ever race at the iRacing Super Speedway, which was a bit of an adventure, Jonathan. I'm sure you remember, and that one won by Nicholas Mara. So clearly the 32 pretty comfortable with plate tracks. Winner of the Clash. Second in front row qualifying, locked in that spot, and currently leading this Daytona 250.
Yeah, the Maras, I think, they had an okay Cup season. They had a difficult winter. I think that was kind of the boost they needed, winning the Clash and then getting on pole. And they did well in their dual races, respectively, as well. So it's a good sign for things to come. It's going to be those mile and a half that I think trip them up. But speaking of other guys, Liam Sheen has all of a sudden appeared in this mid-group, and I recall him starting about 34th. So he is making moves.
36th.
That was close.
I'm seeing a plus. Well, there's a couple of big movers. You got Daniel Eberhardt up 28 spots, and then Liam Sheen is up 29 from 36th up to 7th. So he has been on the move for Total Downforce Racing.
Yeah, I think this is where we're gonna see a bit more aggression. You got these mid-pack movers all of a sudden coming into these guys that have been towards the front the whole race. It's gonna be interesting to see how they react. Is Liam gonna be content riding right here, or is he gonna try and get to the front and get as much clean air as possible?
Options. I feel like if you've gone from 30-something to 8th, then your decision is probably, I'm gonna go up front and lead.
I mean, he might be. It depends on who he wants to work with too up here. There's a lot of newer faces. Trevor Trago, first start in a dual race, gets a win. Major and Hess have not made Cup starts. Hess was around for the Winter Series at Talladega and did reasonably well, but for someone like Sheen, who's been a veteran, you don't have a big notebook on some of these guys up here, so he's kind of venturing into the unknown.
Yeah, you don't know who they're friends with. First off, how they drive, right? If you've been with somebody in a series for an extended period of time, you're comfortable racing around them. But I think, especially in the context of Daytona, it goes further than that, right? I don't know who this guy's friends are. I don't know who he's planning on working with. Is he, drafted with a teammate, a friend? Is he on his own? Does he need help? Those are all the things that you'll learn, and we got lots of these plate races coming up this year, right? One more trip to Daytona, 2 trips to Talladega, including some pretty consequential ones later this year with the regular season finale back here, and of course the playoff race at Dega. So you'll learn these things as the season goes on. And talking about the schedule, roughly pretty as close as you can get to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. 30 races here instead of the 36 that the Cup Series does. Lots of road races, 5 on the schedule. We will not be racing at the Daytona Road Course next week. It'll be the first off week for this SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series. Instead, though, we will have action from Daytona here on RaceSpotTV. It'll be round 1 of the RealSimRacing IROC series. So that'll be a little bit different when you talk about all the plate racing, in case you haven't had enough of it yet. More to come.
No, I know. I don't know if our in-race supporter is having a little bit of technical issue or anything like that, but he has all of a sudden appeared at the end of this group as well in that outside lane. You can see that black and white 79.
Try him on the radio again. Dylan, and side by side, you got the mic working? It's either a negative or he's too busy. I think the second option is totally a valid excuse. When you're doing 199, 200 miles an hour right there off into turn number 2. But yeah, was kind of stuck in that no man's land mid-pack, and I'm guessing Jonathan wasn't a fan of all the 3 wide that he was seeing, and now he's at the tail end of a lead group that's about 13 or so cars long. Nothing happening up front, though, for the last couple of laps. Normally it's, every 2-3 laps you got somebody pushing up on the outside and dropping to the bottom and whatnot. Nicholas Ibarra is doing a good job of just kind of riding, right? Hanging out on the bottom. Pushed by Dane Cruz. Jeremy Miller's not too worried about drafting up and trying to make a move. And I think these leaders are being very disciplined. We are already quarter distance in this SimSeats 250.
And I think what helps is we had the official series all running at Daytona last week. We had the iRacing Daytona 500. We had full-length events. We had a lot of practice. I think that kind of helps. You have a week-long period to kind of practice your craft, practice how you want to pace yourself, really. And it's helped these drivers, I think, calm down and try and find a bit of a groove here and a bit of a work. Now, what was interesting to me is that outside line did get going, but it just hasn't been able to materialize lately. This bottom lane, contrary to the Real Life 500 that we saw yesterday, it has been the stronger lane.
And we'll see if that's going to be a trend that continues through the rest of this race. That was a bit of a push by Cruz. You can see Miller in the center of the corner. He is walking it down a little bit. He is trying to, side draft and pinch, but it's nothing, I think, outrageous. 27 laps in to a 100-lap contest. Mara still in control at the front of the field. All 43 drivers started this race. All 43 drivers are still on the lead lap and still in a draft with somebody. Michael Kaczynski is 43rd, and he is in about a 6-car pack, so nobody has had an early incident. Nobody has dropped out of this race. I would say a pretty consistent and good start to this year as Cruz went bottom to top, and he will finally decide that he does not want to be the bridesmaid, I should say, to Nicholas Mara anymore. He'll drop back down and take over the race lead.
I think that 27 car is a car you want to be in front of because he is a really strong pusher. He's been able to push a lot of cars to the front so far. And like we mentioned, he won Talladega. We've already mentioned it a little bit during the clash.
We were mentioning the schedule. Let's talk a little bit more about it and take a look at it with some RaceSpot picture-in-picture here. And you can see the playoffs on the right-hand side of your screen. It ends, though, last regular season race, round 20 at Daytona. And eventually that we'll see Talladega in the middle there at the round of 12. But notable races, obviously all the road course races, right? Several new ones. COTA going to be on May 24th. You're back to Sonoma. You're going to go to Road America for the first time, back to Watkins Glen, and back to the Charlotte Roval. So some of the new ones make the cut. Big thing is March 29th, iRacing has confirmed that it's coming to the service, Jonathan, assuming it comes in time. Round 5 is a Bristol dirt race. If it gets on the sim, we'll race at Nashville Superspeedway for round 13 in June. If it doesn't, we'll see a Pocono doubleheader the week after. So just like in real-life NASCAR Cup Series racing, you see it here in the SimSeats Cup Series here with RSR. Lots of schedule changes.
Yeah, lots of schedule changes and lots of just interesting combinations. This first part of the season, though, besides that Bristol dirt race, is pretty regular up until we get to the end of May. Then we go to Circuit of the Americas, Sonoma. Yeah, then it gets a little bit crazier, and I think that's where someone like the man down under, Matt Danson, who was proved very strong in the Winter Series in the road course, is going to come into play. But there could be other factors. Just looking on our right side of the screen, we have pit stops already.
A handful of drivers down pit road early in this one. Kyle Kamer, David Washington, James Ross, Sean Kalist. Dane Parrish, Ross Cato, Andrew Farinaj, Daniel Eberhardt. So a lot of cars down, a little bit shy of 1/3 distance. They came in at 30. Doesn't put them at, too shy for the fuel window, but from further back of the pack, you'll notice, you saw it there, bottom right, nobody really for the top 10 or 15 came down pit road, right? It was kind of the back half of the lead pack, so they wanted to get separated. And in a race like this, where honestly, passes for the race lead are a little bit meaningless 1/3 of the way in, these are the consequential parts. His pit stops, executing clean, getting out with company, and this group who pitted, they're all discombobulated down on the apron in 1 and 2. The goal anytime you pit at a plate track is to not lose a lap, but some of them will. They're going to get eaten up here at a turn 2.
Yeah, because they were at the tail end of the draft, and I think the other thing was, I think it's SK Racing that triggered it. There was a few teammates in there, Kalis, Kamer, and Eberhardt, that triggered that group to come down. So they were the ones that tried to organize it. They came out in front, but look at how far back Sean Kalis is from his teammates. They're all the way at the trial already. He's getting eaten up alive by the lead group.
He's just going to get kind of swallowed whole, and maybe the ideal situation is what happens to Kalis, right? He lost the lead lap, but if you're in that lead draft, exactly, just second row, you're basically always going to be the lucky dog car. So that's, the battle in and of itself, as Kalis is going to have to battle with Washington, who's on his bumper, with Ross, with Cato, with Parrish, and everybody else has been swallowed up by this lead pack. Going to be a very interesting battle for the lucky dog spot. Even if you can get to the lead of this pack and then get a yellow, you wouldn't even need the lucky dog, because you can get ahead of the 27 and the 46, you would be the race leader. More traffic up the road, holding to the inside of the racetrack. The 88 of Andrew Farinaj. Does he go a lap down? No. He had enough speed that instead of passing him, the leaders will pick him up. And now the 88 is going to be leading this group, while being the last car on the lead lap.
I don't think he had enough speed. I think Jeremy Miller had nowhere to go. De Blasio tried to look to the inside of Cruz and almost turned him into Jeremy Miller through the tri-oval. So that was a bit scary, but I think now the new sponsored SimRacer 88, finally we put a paint scheme on that 88 machine, is now still on the lead lap, so he's in a good position. But now these lap down cars almost become like an inconvenience to the leaders, because the leaders are going to be pitting soon.
Yeah, they are going to be down, and there you can see, locking up the brakes, a very aggressive pit stop by Dylan Coyle. He's not the only driver down. Tom Morano is down pit road with him, and Dylan looks like a little bit too deep into the box. Going to have to put it in reverse and back it up to get service. 3 additional sets of tires available for these drivers in the pits. If it is a 2-stop race, that is not going to be an issue tonight. Not that it's ever a huge factor at Daytona, but you don't necessarily have to be pushing the buttons and the numbers fuel strategy-wise in this race.
Can you guys hear me?
We got you this time.
Oh my goodness. I just actually stayed in the box for an extra 4 seconds just to get my microphone reset. It was completely fine.
We're wrecking on pit road with the race leader, the 32 machine, Nicholas Mara, is into the pit road wall, and I believe that was it the brothers coming together on pit road? I saw Matthew Mara right there. Did they get into each other?
Well, it just looks like there's a lot of confusion right now, because the 1 hit the wall, the 44 missed his box, and we're going to replay right here. Mara coming down. He's coming in very hot. He just loses it on his own. And then
he lost it on his own, and then he spun basically into the 23 machine of Matthew Mara. So the brothers are involved, but it was just overdriving it on behalf of Nicholas Mara. You can see on his onboard, the 23 was, 4 car lengths up the road from him when he came to pit road, but then he passed him, so he carried a lot more speed. Everybody else was able to get in pretty cleanly. It's a 1-car incident, so there will not be a caution. And I no later than I mentioned that he must be a fan of these super speedways for all the success he had at iRacing Super Speedway and qualifying through the duels and early in this. Nicholas Mara's hopes of winning the SimSeats 250 appear to be out the window. That car's back on track, but it is heavily damaged, and he has now lost the draft.
Yeah, it's just a hard thing to nail, getting into pit road like that. It's extremely easy to do that, as we have more takers.
Sorry for all the audio issues, guys.
We've got you now. Tell us how the first, third of your races went. We saw some of that 3 wide back of the pack as Trigo and Borg drivers are down pit road, and then I saw you go a little bit deep into the box. How's the start of this 250 been?
It's been really good, actually. I worked from 31st to around 10th, 9th at one point as I crossed the line. I feel very good. I took an extra 7 or so seconds in the pits, though, from overshooting it, and then I took 5 seconds afterwards to make sure the mic was back. I sacrificed my timing in the pits to make sure that you heard my voice, which may be good for some, may be not good for others. But nonetheless, been pretty good. A lot of good action, especially in the back. I worked the outside lane to get up front, and now I guess I'll have to do that all over again, considering I'm pretty much back in the pack.
Oh, no.
We got another wreck on pit road, the 33 of John Rodden. The last one we saw was coming into the box, or into pit road. This time for Rodden, I don't know if he just saw his box late or what, Jonathan, but just turned straight left and bounced off the pit wall.
I think he had Kyle Trudell to his inside, and they were so far out of the pit boxes that the ghosting wasn't, in full effect. So I think he was worried about clobbering the side of Trudell. As here comes the 99, and I think he's all by himself. I don't know if, according to the intervals, he has no friends. He's stayed out the longest.
Yeah, he's the only guy who hasn't come down pit road yet. So Gary Weaver going to come down pit road from the race lead. And now we wait to see where everybody balances out. These 3 cars led by Fredericks, and looks like Kalis and some of the other drivers drafted with him there, Marius Leszczynski and Kyle Trudell. They are 1, 2, and 3. Here's the onboard look with Tom Morano getting down to pit road. Some sort of an issue for the 42. He, I think, didn't realize, based on the way the qualifying draw was, Jonathan, that he started this race. I'm just going to double-check the number just to be positive. Tom Morano started this race 43rd. That means he had the number 1 pit stall. He entered pit road to the right-hand side, would have missed his stall. So he had to back it up at pit road entry. Fortunately, nobody was there. We get away with that one cleanly. Fredericks just got passed for the race lead, and so is Gary Weaver this time at a turn 2. So the 4 machine once again back to the top of the board. Fredericks is going to tame this lead pack for the moment.
Yeah, it's a good call from the Extreme Racing guys of Leszczynski and Trudell, staying out a little bit later, making sure you're working together, because they were not in that lead pack at all. They were down closer to this mid group where we're seeing Weaver get cycled out into, and this is a really good call to get them towards the front.
Now we survive our first cycle of green flag pit stops. The lead pack has been whittled down slightly to 25 cars large. There's, that one initial group who pitted that kind of got swallowed up. They've now blended back into the picture, but we do have some drivers who have ended up off cycle. Morano, who missed the pit stall entry early, he falls to 40th. Shane Parrish ends up 41st. Joey Yates is 42nd. And, of course, Nicholas Mara, who had the incident into the wall, is running 43rd. So no retirees early in this one, but those pit stops, as expected, Jonathan, going to be very consequential, especially when they're green flag pit stops.
And especially if you get your dance partners wrong. Again, the Extreme Racing fellows timed it out perfectly, the 7 and the 03. I saw the other partners, like they got split up a little bit. SK Racing tried to get everyone together with Freenage, and they made some ground and got up to this lead group, but it wasn't enough to really take the lead. It's still, 37 to 21, 84 have been up to the whole time.
Yeah, they're strong, and here's a push on the outside as Trevor Trigo wants to go to the top of the board, and he will. He'll tuck down in line as the race leader at lap number 42. We talk about the duels and how it was good to get them back on the schedule for 2021, and Trevor Trigo just showed up and won duel number 1. Not a bad night. Didn't lead a ton of laps. He beat out Joseph Tice, who was the dominant car in that duel, but that's how he secured the number 3 spot on the grid, and that's how he's, I think, been able to maintain that track position all night. Look off of the bumper of the race leader. There's lap traffic up the road, so we're going to have to squeeze 3 wide here down the backstretch.
And the 4 car jumping out there all of a sudden as well.
I don't know if he was afraid of the lapped car or if he really just wanted to drop back, but he'll go to the back of this group here, and that costs him about 6 spots.
Maybe also running hot. We can't really see from the onboard, obviously, but temperatures are going to start to become a problem as these guys start racing harder and harder and closer and closer.
The lapped car going backwards is the 87 to Joe Yakes. He's going to become the second car lapped down. Nick Amara, first car that got lapped. So that'll be the battle for the Lucky Dog spot. Everybody else, again, in a pretty good position. I mentioned that the lead pack had kind of gone to the 20s or so. I think it's now all the way through 29th because a trio of Mosier, Casto, and Rabel have caught the back end of the lead pack. There's a second look at Fredericks. And just below the double yellow, you can go below the double yellow to give up positions. You could not go below the double yellow to gain positions. And thus some drivers dropped back early. Maybe he felt like he didn't want to be 2-3 wide. 6 laps shy and halfway this time.
In the very back, guys, we're starting to have a little bit of a train form as this last draft group. It was started out with 4 strong. Now it's going to be 6 strong. And give or take a few laps of green flag action, it might get even bigger. You think of it this way. If we're talking about the lead pack, 10 cars deep, 2 wide across? They're not only going fast, but they're also at points slowing each other down because of the side draft. If a group like, I don't know, 6 cars, 8 cars, even 10, obviously, is just single file and helping each other out, then, you know, there's not going to be that much to worry about in terms of a side draft. So we'll have to see how this plays out if it stays green, because we're almost at that halfway point.
You got a lot of time to make up, though, my friend. You might need a caution,
right?
More than just working together.
16 seconds back. I think that's a little bit too far, right? So you got the lead pack, which right now goes to like 29th. Then you got Grant Davis, Eric de Blasio, and Michael Kaczynski. They're 9 seconds on for the race lead, 30th, 31st, and 32nd. And then kind of the rest, right? So Nieto, Burke, Tice, Mara, Lariah, and Dylan yourself. Maybe hoping for a yellow then, as long as it's not your group. And listen, the odds would suggest Daytona's probably going to see a caution at some point. Last year's season opener had 5. So far, none, but plenty of time for them to still get a little bit over their head. We're watching now the battle again for the race lead, and I'd say they're side by side, about a dozen or so rows deep. So they're definitely in it.
Yeah, some different names and faces starting to come to the front. I think we mentioned Liam Sheen was a hard charger, and the pit cycles put him even closer to the lead. Now he has a very strong car in the 27 right ahead of him, as well as Stephen Price, who worked his way from the back.
More lap traffic up the road. Tom Morano and the Sletton Company's Ford Mustang to move up to the outside. They will squeeze 3 wide around the lapped traffic. On board with Price. Always a little bit sketchy when you catch that lapped car going into the corner because, you know, everybody hasn't necessarily established their lane or anything, but they are able to sneak on through. A little bit close maybe that time with that 84 of Garrett Hess, but Jeremy Miller going to go top to bottom. He'll now control the race lead pack.
And he's been the consistent one, I think, out front in most of this race.
And there's the move back up to the outside. So de Blasio, I was curious if he was going to go for it. He does. Jumps up top, pushed by Liam Sheen, down the super stretch into 3, and back to the top of the board.
Oh, I think we're getting a notebook on that 77. Strong pusher.
Yeah, he wants his own turn, right? He wants to be able to go to the race lead, this time relying on a push by Stephen Price to get him there. But the bottom, I mean, look how aggressive Miller's being as well, right? The 77's an aggressive pusher because I don't think because he wants to be doing charity work. He just wants those cars out of his way so he has a chance to go. But you can see Price now falling back 3 wide. He was not nearly as aggressive, and Miller just shoved de Blasio ahead. So that 77 never really got a chance. So Liam Sheen's going to settle for 3rd in line, and Price is going to drop back about to 8th position or so, now maybe more, as the 37 of Machina Trigo and the 03 of Leszczynski going to go around.
Yeah, I think the 22 was just caught off guard by that 77 ducking down. He wanted to go with him, and just there wasn't enough room. And now, this is the fault of Daytona. You make a little mistake like that, and all of a sudden you fall all the way down this draft order.
50 laps down, 50 laps to go from Daytona. Let's take a look at your sim seats midway race break. And not often in Daytona that this is the case, but halfway through, your pole sitter is in the lead. Adam de Blasio controls at the moment, ahead of Jeremy Miller running in 2nd position. Big movers there on the back. Liam Sheen started in 36th position. He is up to 3rd right there in his number 77, ahead of the number 4 of Anthony Fredericks, who is a plus 16. More top 10 starters there on the back. Garrett Hess currently runs in the number 5 spot, ahead of Dane Cruz in the number 46 machine. Manatsi Major starts in 11th and runs 7th at the moment. Mariusz Leszczynski behind him in 8th. And then how about Daniel Eberhardt? Top 10 for the first time tonight from 41st on the grid is 9th. Looks like he wants to get Kyle Trudell to draft with him, who scored right now in P10.
And further on back, you have Trevor Trago, Stephen Price. Price moving up through the field. Trago starting towards the front with that dual win, just kind of hanging around right now. Gary Weaver started midway through the race and led a lap by staying out. We thought he could have been caught out, but he actually got lucky and got back in the draft. Good for him. Sean Kalis and SK Racing, they came down with the 88 of Freenodge, who's not too far behind him. So that would be good. Bobby Krug passing him right now. Good run so far for him. Ross Cato, Kyle Kamer, also having solid runs, kind of in this midfield. Haven't made any noise yet, but Freenodge and Angle Phillip also have really not made any noise. Freenodge was almost about to go a lap down at one point, and Angle Phillip has kind of been hanging in this mid group so far.
And talking about the new-looking cars, how about the Sim Racer film on board that 88 Ford this year? Behind him, you mentioned Angle Phillip in 20th. Brian Chambliss is 21st at the moment. That's him in the number 25 Chevrolet. 22nd is David Washington. Brandon Bowie rides 23rd at the moment. Nick Silver a little bit further back in the number 24 spot. There he is back single file, along with Sean Casto in 25th. Chris Rabel, 26th position right there in the white number 29 Ford, ahead of longtime series veteran, the number 5 of Rhett McBride, always in those Amsoil colors. Thomas George behind him, the number 9 Sirius XM Chevy, is in 28th position. The lone representative from Subpar Racing, Michael Mosier, is scored in 29th position in his Monster Energy Chevy. And then Grant Davis right now, another one of the drivers with the new partnership, the Circle B Diecast Chevy, rides in 30th.
A little more green on Kaczynski's cars than we're used to seeing. A new sponsor on him, but still Extreme Racing. He's getting very, very sideways. Racing with Eric de Blasio right behind, who has not been much of a factor early on in this one, but I think he's just kind of waiting for his time to shine. Joseph Tice was a dominant car in the duels as he lets Sam Nieto by and Bradley Burke. Matthew Mara now without a teammate. It looks like even some damage from that collision coming down on pit road. Our very own Dylan Coyle in this group, as well as Michael Araya, Shane Parrish, 1 lap down, and Joe Yates as well, 1 lap down.
And then you've also got Morano, Rodden, and Mara a lap down. So those are the drivers who are, have had issues and are hoping for a yellow, right? They want to get a waiver and get back into this race. You can see the damage on Mara. That's a look top to bottom at your SimSeats midway race break. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes already racers from amateur to the pro ranks. Everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing anytime, any day, any car, at any track. Visit sim-seats.com to learn more. Closing in on a potential second and final trip to pit road for green flag pit stops, let's take in the sights and sounds of Daytona International Speedway. That's what 200 miles an hour feels like at Daytona International Speedway. Very impressed with the patience and maybe the sportsmanship's the right word of what we've seen early in this one. But the gloves are about to come off. We saw the first drivers who kicked off the very first cycle of green flag pit stops at about lap 30. Well, same distance would be now, but I think we're going to be closer towards 65 to 70, Jonathan, to be in that window to come down pit road, get your service. It's always a good idea on your final scheduled pit service to leave yourself a little bit more extra in case we need some overtime later today.
It's also a little harder for that first group to, get organized, because one of the members of the first group, Daniel Eberhardt, who, while we were going through that midfield rundown, somehow worked his way to the lead with that lap down car, the 81 machine. So good for him for getting all the way back to the front like that and getting a lap led, but now he's going back to collect his teammates, and I think they're going to organize a trip down pit road now. But you're going to have to make different friends, I think, this time than last time. The field is really shaken up.
Well, there you go, right? I mean, get your bonus point and get out, and then worry about fighting for the max points a little bit later on. Big difference between first and second in the points. If you get the race win, it's a 40-point payout, plus, of course, at least a bonus point, because you got to lead a lap to do so. So 41 minimum for winning a race. It's only 35 for second, so it's 1-point intervals everywhere, but for the race win. So obviously that's an incentive if the big giant golden ticket to the playoffs wasn't incentive enough. And of course, for every race win you get over the 20 race regular season, you get 3 bonus points to start the round of 16 later this year. That can really be helpful. So Adam de Blasio get a step of the line from the bottom. He'll go up to the outside, pushed by the 03 machine, Marius Leschinski. Does the 21 want to bring the 03 with him? Waits a long time to decide to go down, but finally does tuck in line. And without drafting help, this could help the 03 off of turn 2 if that 7 of Trudell gives him a shove. Not there enough, though, to give that support. And there's that 27 of Miller, who has been, I think, one of the most aggressive pushers in this race.
I feel like if you want to win, you either have to be the 27 or you have to be on the front bumper of the 27, because he's been up front here consistently. He's been able to push a lot of cars to the front and then get around it. Because look at this move. He's going to go to the outside, pick up the extreme racing cars, the 03 and the 7, and get himself a push to get back to the lead of the bottom lane. Really smart, good move. Well timed.
And once again, back to the top of the board. So Jeremy Miller knows what he's doing when it comes to these plate races, and he's able to make these moves without any dedicated help, right? Not like he's got an HBR teammate right there with him or anything. He is, just trying to control the lanes on his own, and in that Root Racing Designs Chevrolet Camaro, doing a pretty good job of it, I would say. Back on the board with Steven Price. Price was kind of on the hot seat a little bit ago. We saw him drop way to the rear on the 3rd lane. He's back in the mix now, right P7.
I think the best way to make up positions is going to be that outside lane. The problem is it just gets so stagnant up here at the front that it's hard to really grab that lead. You get one car up there, but the top lane has not become the dominant lane to use. You couldn't even see it through the rest of the field. Everyone else is single file on the bottom, probably to the end of this lead group.
Lead pack all the way from the race lead, if you want to count everybody to 29th position. Top 29 cars within about 4.5 seconds of each other. That's all the way from Miller in first to Mosier in 29th position. Still the trio of de Blasio, Davis, and Kaczynski way back, and a lot of drivers complaining about some checkups back in line, which is spooking some of them as just as quickly as Miller got the race lead back, it's swiped once more by that 21 of de Blasio.
I think you're seeing the checkups because these lead groups are, this lead pack is shifting lines a little bit. We have had 3 or 4 different lead changes in the last 3 or 4 laps, and now all of a sudden these lines are going to accordion into these corners, which creates a lot of danger. And they're all single file in the bottom too, which I think that's what makes it worse. Is that accordion is so long that just a little checkup from these front 2 could chain all the way down to that 29th position.
That'd be nice for the guys back here.
Well, you're making up time, I think.
Well, I think the benefit, Dylan, you guys have, I mean, I don't think you want to be 26 seconds back, but the fact that you're not on your own means that you guys are losing some time. Your group of 6 isn't as fast as, the group of 40 or whatever it is, 30 up the road. But you guys are very well coordinated, so you're limiting the amount of time that you're losing so that if a yellow comes, you guys should all still be on the lead lap and get right back into this race, it looks like.
Yeah, that's the hope. I know a lot of the drivers in the front pack, I believe, are going to be pitting in this time. So if there's some calamity to happen, you know where it starts.
Well, radio chatter, pit road going to be busy this time through, and there they all are. Eberhardt, Ross, Kalist, Cato, Kamer, Washington. Looks like Farinaj also on pit road, so a big group of drivers down. A clean entry, which couldn't be said for all of the groups that came in on that first cycle. So sounds like Brent McBride saying that he'll be down not this next time, but the time after that, right at about lap 70. Jonathan, as we expected, pit stops underway. This group in and out cleanly. That's big.
Yeah, and it's a lot of that first group that came down the first cycle. It's a lot of SK Racing and Freenage. They triggered this, and they took down Washington and Agnell Phillip with them. That's a lot of big names and a lot of good drivers in that group. And they're together, too. Whereas this 22 looks like he's all on his lonesome.
Not what you want, but if you can get out there and not be slow, you know, you can try to mix in with where everybody else is. That's Stephen Price on his own. Right side tires up. Going to get it full of fuel. Does he opt to go for 4? No. Right side's only gas. He is off and away, and he is going to try to hope that he can blend back out in with everybody else. There go your leaders. They are passing all the cars on the bottom who just came down pit road, but I would expect them to be in this time. Could be tough for the 03 Leszczynski on the outside of the cars that just pitted. Does he want to pit? No. He will stay out. Anthony Fredericks does pit from the lead group, and that's another lonely trip down to pit road. Rodden, Chambliss, George, Mosier pitting behind him, but nobody from the group that he was with.
No, but he'll at least have some friends, I think, when he comes out, depending on what he does. If he does a 4-tire stop, I think he might have some friends. If a lot of those guys do 2 tires as well, they will catch up. But now, the lead group has caught a lot of those guys that just came up pit road, and there's Stephen Price. He got ahead of those SK drivers that just came down a little bit ago. Is he going to be fast enough to hang in there with them in the draft?
Certainly going to hope Fredericks ends up with company, but you can see this group appears to be pretty spread out. Mosier and if that's Rodden, the last driver off, might have been the 4 car there of Fredericks, but you need help off of pit road. More cars down and in for service. They're from the lead. Miller, Sheen, Cruz, Major, Hess, all down pit road. Much cleaner cycle this time through than what we saw last time.
I think that first cycle, all the jitters are out. Everyone kind of got the feel of it, like, okay, this is how we're doing things. This is how we run with each other. And especially if you're coming down with the same guys as last time, you kind of get that good feeling. However, Bride, I think he might have just taken fuel, because all of a sudden he's leaped to the front of this group who was leading.
That's exactly how you want this to shake out. The cars who pitted a little bit ago have not as much momentum, so they're down on the bottom. We're still waiting on a significant portion of the field to come in and pit. Your top 12 scoring will update. Top 18 have yet to come down pit road, so at about 50% of the field has been in so far. Adam de Blasio, your leader through all of this. The first car of those who have pitted, no surprise, is still Jeremy Miller.
Yeah, he's executing perfectly right now, and I think a lot of those guys that haven't pitted have been those guys that have been riding in those lonesome kind of tandem groups towards the rear of the field. Now here comes de Blasio and Grant Davis down. That were kind of all on the lonesome, and I think they left Kaczynski out to dry. But the Lariah, Tyson, Nieto, Mara, Book, Coyle group, they're still running for a little bit. And I think that's okay, because they're trying to gamble on a yellow, which is a good gamble right now with these not lap down, but close to lap down, and lead cars mixed in with each other.
Kaczynski going to come in now, somewhat on his own. And now here's that big group of cars from that was, 20-some-odd seconds back. So Dylan Coyle's down with Bradley Burke, with Sam Nieto a little bit tight with one of the Maras there on pit road. So they are down and in for service. Now the top 9, the magic number, drivers who have yet to come down pit road.
And the interesting thing is, I think the benefit to staying out is going to be a little bit short of fuel, assuming they're taking 2 tires, but the downside is going to be they're stuck in that just huge mess.
And now more chatter that this lead pack may be coming down this time. That music to the ears of this group, that 27th machine of Miller, who is looking to reassume the race lead. Once this pit cycle is completed, de Blasio tucks out of line. He will come down pit road. Mariusz Leszczynski does not. Looks like de Blasio will be joined by Trevor Trigo. So a lot of small factions of cars pitting this time. Started the cycle was, dozens at a time. Now it's kind of 2 by 2.
Yeah, it's those dying hopefuls to get out for a caution, but we should really applaud, I think, this group of 5 or 6 cars right here. I think Brett McBride, it was a lap down, so I apologize if I got him confused. Looked like he had to stay on pit lane for quite some time. But this group of 5 came down all together, and look at this gap they've created over the rest of the field.
And there they are, down pit road. That may take up a big bulk. In fact, that is all 7 cars from the lead who had yet to come down pit road. Talk about stretching the fuel all the way to lap number 77. They come down pit road. And now we are good to go the distance here from Daytona. Jeremy Miller over the radio telling his group that we are ahead of everybody else. We need to stick together and work together. That is a top 6 breakaway, I think.
Oh,
and
wow.
They do not want to let everybody in, and a caution. I see Kalis, yeah, Sean Kalis is spun in turns 3 and 4. And it looks like that it was a bit of a touch after he was getting passed by cars that were already up to speed.
Well, this changes a little bit of the complexion of the races. Here comes the replay. 3 wide. Just Washington drifts up a little bit. And, ooh, heavy hit with the 33 machine. That's going to likely put the 33 and the 43 out of this race, nearly out of contention for a victory here.
Well,
Just when Jeremy Miller was strategizing that he was in a good spot, yellow comes out. You better hope you're on the lead lap at the moment of yellow, and this is a brand new race after going 3/4 distance without an incident.
guys, I am so happy I am the lucky dog.
Oh yeah, 36th, first car, 1 lap down. That should get you waved back around and will strand McBride, Parrish, Kalis, Rodden, and Moreno. So that was pretty fortunate timing, I would say, for you.
Yep, 2 green flag pit stops, absolutely royally screwed up by myself. First time I overshot it, came back, and then I took an extra 5 seconds software-related technical issue. And then the second time I overshot it again, came back, it was too far to the right, had to go back in. That was awful. Sometimes pays to be lucky and not good. But I went from 31st to 9th at one point to 39th. What a race.
Well, and now it doesn't really matter that it's a 100-lap race because it's going to be a bit of a crapshoot for the final 20. I think a race that was very clean is going to get very wild, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, especially now that we have a big mix-up at the front. Although I'm curious why Gary Weaver appears to be the only one in that group that is scored ahead of Jeremy Miller. Everyone else is getting shuffled back a little bit as we see a number of guys down pit road. Interestingly, Daniel Eberhardt, Michael Loraya, Sam Nieto, Tice, Matthew Mara. Very interesting call, I think, for a lot of these guys.
Can I try and explain some of that?
Well, I think Gary Weaver's talking now, and his whole group was still on pit road when the yellow came out, so they had to go, I believe, behind the pace car, and Gary Weaver had just gotten in front of it because he has pitted. And that's how he ends up being the Golden Horseshoe recipient of that group. Because he would have, gone down into 1 and 2 on the apron and gotten past, right? Because he would have been slower than the pack. But for the timing of the yellow, very ideal.
I thought that group made it before pit road. I thought at least more than the 99 machine. I thought at least Trudell and Kaczynski were out with him. Well, at least Jeremy Miller's going to be a happy camper. He's still towards the front. He's only got 1 car in front of him now.
And also the number 43 of Sean Kalis has claimed responsibility for the incident, so he will get an end of the longest line penalty.
I've never been happier to be at the end of the line.
I don't know if you want to be in this situation. You're gonna have a lot of angry drivers. You're gonna have about 36 angry drivers.
I'll be
about
one of the angry
20
drivers.
laps to go at Daytona.
Normally, everybody outside of like the top 10 is pretty mad. I was gonna say everybody but the winner, but I think if you finish top 10 at a plate race, you're normally in a pretty good mood because the alternative is always much worse.
Yes, 100%. I'm just very fortunate to have gotten that lucky dog. I'm still waiting for Eberhard to come by. Is he, where is he?
He's about halfway down the backstretch. He's going into 3.
Gotcha, okay. I'm supposed to let him by.
I think he'll get there.
I
Bayless
have
isn't
no
on track,
doubt.
so he's not actually going to get the EOL because he's not on track, so wouldn't serve much of a purpose. John Rodden has gone to the garage as a result of damage sustained in the incident. He's going to be the first driver out of this race. So we are 4/5 of the way into the SimSeats 250, and only one car is in the garage. Don't bank on that being like it when the checkered flag is out, but for all things considered, a great season opener thus far, and now it's time to pull those belts tight one more time, if you will, because this thing's about to get crazy.
Oh,
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we all deserve an award for making it this far. Not even the real NASCAR drivers made it past lap 15. We're all the way to lap 80 when we have one retirement. So, you know what? Good job. Good job, everyone. It's been great, and now it's about to get crazy.
Can we just look what happened between Eberhard and myself?
Got a little bit of a close call there back in traffic. He did not want to not get his spot in line in time and belt ripped your door off, but everything's okay. Lights out on the pace car. We're going to restart as we roll off at turn number 4. So Gary Weaver, call it luck, call it timing. He's your race leader coming to a restart, this time by with 20 laps to go at Daytona. Miller, Sheen, Cruz, and Hess, your top 5. Green flag in the air.
I don't know if that 27 just got a perfect start, or the 99 just didn't get going, but it was a great jump from Miller to get back to the lead.
And he got going. Gonna have to hope that it was not too early because Gary Weaver entitled to the control car position to restart the race.
Yeah, you would hope not. We were only seeing out of the rear of the 99. We didn't get to see if that 27 did pass him, but assuming that 27 is not saying he's had a penalty all over the radio yet, I think the 27's okay. But now we have different players, different people up here. There's Freenage, there's Cato, there's Phillip. There's some more people that want to make some noise.
And can confirm clean restart for the number 27 machine, so he is okay. Weaver was just a little bit slow on the draw. Miller went to the race lead quickly. Feels like we're back at the start of this race. Jeremy Miller funning with Dane Cruz on the front row.
And we haven't talked about him much, but Mutasi Major, another rookie coming into the series, has been in this top group all night, and he's been a decent pusher, at least when he's got other cars around him. Now, he hasn't been able to get someone to the front on his own, but I think he may be feeling a bit more risky here as the laps wind down. Same with Garrett Hess. He's been up here a lot of this race, yet to lead a lap. I think we're going to wait for him to see what he does.
Liam Sheen a little bit dicey that time. Just as the outside opened, he goes up, and now he'll be the one pushed by Cruz, leading the outside at lap number 83. You can see the side-by-side throughout the lead pack. Andrew Friedage creeping into the picture. There is no more hanging back and saving your equipment. It's time to go.
And look at that push from that 46 machine. That is textbook how that 46 was able to push Liam Sheen to the lead. A little probably upset that he didn't take, then he got taken with. He's still stuck on the outside by himself, but that 46 car is someone you want to make friends with towards the end of this one.
Your top 15 have broken away just a little bit. It will not last, so everybody else is going to catch up, but at least on the restart, your lead 15 had a small advantage and How about Sheen, as you mentioned, from 36th on the grid to the race lead late at Daytona?
And this is a drive I think we were kind of expecting, like, you know, Eberhardt to do. And Eberhardt did get to the lead, but kind of dropped back. We were expecting Freenage to do. He hasn't been up in the top 10 yet. And I think the 77 got up here, 30 laps into this race and has been in this top group. He just hasn't had the lead until now.
Weaver can't really do much from the third spot on the bottom, so he has to hold for the moment. It seems like drivers going to want to go higher and higher as the night goes on. Look at the move by Miller, just squeaking in front of Cruz. He'll get a shot, go all the way to the race lead, but the 46 to cross over. The 27 blocks. What a close call in 3 as they play chicken and Cruz cut him a break.
That's great. And that stacked that whole bottom lineup. You mentioned that gap that was created. That gap does not longer exist. Look at that huge line that it's formed. But now that outside line is starting to get a little bit more adventurous. Agnell, Phillip, and Freenage all the way towards the outside of the wall. They're trying to make up some gain, but they just can't do it right now. They don't have the speed against that middle line.
And now the 46 of Cruz back up top. He said to the 27, you're lucky because it was a late block by Miller. Cruz could have split him, could have wrecked the field if they wanted. But I think the 27 fortunate that the 46 machine gave him a break there. But Cruz not going to take it easy on him. Right back up to the outside. Wants to take that race lead back. Freenage just 3 wide, about 6 rows deep. He'll now get some support, I believe, by the 51 of Bobby Krug. They are trying to get that very outside line going.
I think what's scary is the fact that the 90 car is getting closer and closer to the 88, and those two have been working together most of the night. So I think that 90 car might have something to say about that outside lane. But, you know, I don't know if we talked about give and take at all this race, but there was a little bit of give early on. Everyone was very clean, very nice, and now it's all take. And Cruz saying you're lucky to the 27? Oh, it's game on up front.
What a bit of a squeeze there. The 12 gets checked up. Hold on. We'll be okay. Another close call. It is high intensity now. Krug pushed by Freenage, flying on that third lane.
Yeah, didn't get checked up. That entire bottom 2 lanes got checked up, and now here comes Bobby Krug with a huge push from that 88. And well done, Krug, for keeping the gas in it right there, because that was really close. You could fit a piece of paper between them, maybe.
If this was lap 8, I think drivers would be fighting to get out of here. It is very discombobulated. It ain't slick. But it's fast and it's necessary. This late, no choice. There's a touch, and there they go. The 37 gets tagged. He gets Agnell, Phillip, and a big one on the back straightaway.
You just see cars and smoke going everywhere. There's the 98. I think there's Keeping It Real Racing got involved. Tice was in it at the very end. Oof, that was... You saw that one car go sideways just at the blink of that last shot we got, and then we knew it was on.
Kind of just an inevitability at that point, right as I was saying. If it was early in the race, I would not want to be there, but late in the race, you have no choice, and it starts from inside of the top 5. We'll get a second look here in just a moment. Agnell Phillip was the one that got tagged. The 37 machine was turned around as well, but I believe the point of contact is going to come between Garrett Hess and Trevor Trigo, and I don't even think it was any of them was pushing too hard. Let's watch. Hess on the bottom, Trigo in the middle. I mean, yeah, just barely anything off of 2.
Yeah, it looks like he almost snapped loose. And thankfully, it kind of happened on this back straightaway. There's a lot of room for error, but we're going to watch it again right here. Here's Tice, and there's just nowhere for some of these guys to go. Lariah, big damage, and then Tice gets tagged right here. Tagged again. not a good spin, at least minor damage, but I'm glad this happened sooner rather than later, because the field was approaching on the lap car of Nicholas Marr, who's heavily damaged in quite a hurry, and they were 3 wide, so there's going to be nowhere for him to go.
Here's another look from down low, and you can see as they scatter, drivers like Cato able to try to go all the way to the bottom to get around it. Sam Nieto also saying that he had quite a view from on board his car. I know he was one of the drivers that made around it, and there's a lot of chatter back and forth between cars trying to get some feedback on how bad is my car and see if it's necessary to come down pit road. Your very race leaders not involved in that one, so Miller, Cruz, Sheen, Faridaj, and Weaver 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is just the second yellow of the night. Going to push us inside of 10 to go. Here's that onboard look with the 2.
Yeah, he's found his teammate. They're going to push up into this middle lane. First time we really see the 44 and the 2 up here, and then there's just nowhere for him to go. The vision is completely blocked. Oh, good dodge by the 2.
He was proud of that one. He was very proud of that one.
It's a shame his teammate couldn't go with him, unfortunately. His teammate got collected.
And he goes to 14th. Still a bit of ways from the front, but well in contention. Late for a plate race.
Yeah, it was a touch on that right rear quarter that just upset that 37, and it just caught everyone out, stacking it up. I think the biggest hit was for David Washington. I think keeping it real team, the number 3, and a couple other of those teammates have a lot of damage. I mean, thankfully, it just didn't end up bigger. I think happening it on the back straightaway, really okay for a lot of these drivers. Minor damage, if any.
I bet you were not done.
I feel like that's a
safe,
pretty good bet.
Yeah,
If you're
the man
willing
who
to
told
bet,
me to bet on I told someone to bet on Michael
about to
now,
say,
so
if you're
I'd
willing
listen
to
to
bet
him.
on De Benedetto, or not on De Benedetto, but if you're willing to bet on the Daytona 500 and some long shots, 100 to 1, I think easy money is more yellows to come.
Yes.
What would we put it at? If a Michael McDowell Daytona 500 win is 100 to 1 and it paid out, what are our odds for another yellow here as the lights are out on the pace car?
3 to 1.
Is that even?
I think you're like
1.5 to 1.
Yeah, I think you're pretty low. I almost think you're almost like a minus 200 at this point.
I believe that's a 1.5 to 1.
Yeah, you're going to have to bet a lot of money to make a little bit, because I think it's almost an inevitability. It'll come, I believe. We'll have 9 to go.
Yeah, 9 to go when we cross the line. It's going to be interesting to see how much of these cars. Some of them got through that wreck with minor damage, but some might have some. So, be interesting to see. We also again new faces up here, so it's going to get dicey.
New drivers up front. Bit of unpredictability. Some drivers with damage. Unpredictability as well. Yeah, nerves. I think a big factor as well.
I like the top 3's chances, though. Like Miller, Cruz, and Sheen have all been really good pushers, and then have all been really good at making the moves. But, again, the problem is Miller and Cruz don't like each other very much at the moment.
If they can play nice. Pace car going to be in. This time, Jerry Miller, Dane Cruz on the front row, Liam Sheen and Andrew Faridaj on row number 2. Weaver Krug, Manazzi Major, Adam de Blasio, Garrett Hess, and Daniel Eberhardt, your top 10. Pace car in, 9 laps to go from Daytona.
I don't think that mid-pack knows what exactly it wants to do. It wants to go forward, but they're 3 and 4 deep. That's not how you go forward, guys. You can't be 3 or 4 wide.
A lot of them were waiting as well to get to the start-finish before they could change lanes. That way they didn't get penalized. It was a little bit difficult for the drivers mid-pack to coordinate that. Up front, though, Miller leads the bottom. Cruz going to lead the challenge to the outside and lead this time by.
Well, now he's got a friend in the 88, which I think is scary. He had a dual winner in the 46. He's being pushed by the defending series champion.
Who played this perfectly, hung back, waited to the end of the race, and now gets up and in the mix when it matters the most.
There's that mid-pack. I think it's settled down a little bit. It looks like the 30 of Kaczynski's been caught off and separated a little bit from his teammates. Trudeau and Leszczynski, the 03 and the 7, have been together all night, and the 30 just has not been able to get close to him.
And here's the move by the 27. So Cruz took the lead, went down to the bottom, now right back up to the outside. The counterpunch comes from Miller, but he will not get clear. Maybe, yes, he does. Wow, it did not look like it was going to happen. But I think a small bobble by Sheen pushing Cruz. The 27 gets turned a little bit in a caution. Big wreck behind the lead.
Oh, I just mentioned that 30 car falling back, and up, we're still stacking up. I think McBride has gotten involved.
It was almost wrecked for the race lead. Jerry Miller just now saying over the radio, "You got me loose." That was a bobble from the top of the board, but this all kind of pops off right there, bottom side of the racetrack. The 3 of Nick Silver is the one that goes around, but it wasn't really his fault. It was just a checkup further up the road. The 14 got a little bit loose. The 22 hit the brakes, and they couldn't get out of each other's way.
Yeah, it's that accordion effect on the bottom going into the corners. Like we talked about it all night, and I think that's really the first time everyone's been bumper to bumper like that, and it's just what happens, and heavy damage. Look at Dylan Coyle's car, heavy damage as well.
What'd you see from that one?
Me?
Yeah.
Frustration.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of red.
I'm feeling red right now. Saw a lot of cars spitting, and I had nowhere to go.
Just look from high above, some of the cars trying to avoid it. The 5 McBride to the double yellow line, and then look out, trying to find a way high. The 8 was kind of in the middle of the road, got into him. That was the additional cars, Jonathan, that you saw that just kept wrecking.
Yeah, the 8 parked himself in a little precarious situation in that back grip in slow, and he was on sport Dylan. Yeah, it's just nowhere for him to go. That stack up all the way into the corner. You're in the 3rd and 4th in line like that. It's just so difficult, especially like that was a millisecond. Like Dylan, I could blink and I would have missed it and been like, how are you around?
Yep, I can't even go above 150, so.
You can still limp home. There's still chaos to come.
Yeah, we don't have there is no
remember.
5-minute damaged vehicle policy, so you don't have to go William Byron on the field and be throwing sheet metal everywhere to be allowed on track. So maybe try to get some spots ahead of everybody else that was involved in the incident. I mean, the 36 cars on the lead lap right now, so there are points out there, but I know not the opener that you wanted.
Not at all. I feel like I can't catch a break with these super speedways, or when I feel like I have a good run. I know I sound like a complainer, but I just feel like every time I have a good result potentially coming, it's just up in flames.
If you had a helmet, probably throw it at the car, like Brad Keselowski. Good runs on plate tracks, but it always seems very unjust the way that these things end.
Hey, at least you weren't on a fire like Brad.
I'd prefer to be in a fire.
Racing.
I'd prefer to be in a fire.
But you'll try to limp this one home, and now we look to see what the number is going to be. I mean, how many people are actually going to be left to fight for this one? Still a lot of cars in this race, right? I mean, there are some damaged cars, Jonathan, but make no mistake, this isn't a race where there's only 5 cars left. I think a majority of the cars on track, despite the big one, are still clean race cars. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the damaged ones sprinkled in the mix, guys who maybe got minor damage from that last yellow, or maybe more so the yellow before that, which happened up front and opted, hey, I'm not going to pit. Somebody like a Kyle Trudell's a little bit banged up in 11th. How will that affect the lanes? Because this is going to be right at or just outside of, a 2 or 3 lap run to the end. Let's see this time by 4 laps to go. Looks like the leaders have started to double up. So we will come by next time to get a 3 lap to go restart.
Well, I think the other key about that wreck is the only guy that was in the top 10 at one point that was involved was Dylan in the 79. I think everyone else had kind of waited at the back almost the whole race. Like Dylan made a charge midway through, right before that first stop. So
I'd love to be kicked again.
A lot of the players, I think, for the win are still in contention, but I don't think we've seen like a big one. Like that was a big wreck. Had 5 or 6 cars. I don't think we've seen a big one yet.
We've seen the big one, not the biggest one. There is still a chance.
No, we haven't seen the biggest one. And the way the 27 and the 46 are racing each other, they're cutting it close.
Yeah, they're going to try, and there's always a chance that these things can have some chaos late. Of course, now we're at the point where if we get another incident, it'll push us into Real Sim Racing overtime, up to 3 attempts at a green-white checkered restart if necessary. Of course, if we get to the white flag, this race is official. Doesn't matter how many cars we wreck on that final lap. First one back to the checkered flag. It'll win the first race of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. It is a Nieto, challenge from 10th position or so from 35th, and Andrew Farida's challenge from 39th. Those are all top 10 cars right now. They're fighting some of the guys who have dominated this race. Still, Miller and Cruz on the front row. 3 laps to go.
Good restart, I think, from Freenot and Miller, but they don't have help behind them. The 21 ditched to go to the high side, and now they might fall back into the clutches of that bottom lane, giving Cruz the lead.
No guarantee that it has to happen up here either. The chaos could come from back in the park, but the number 90, Bashida Daniel Upperhart to the outside. He's pushed by Cato. Only 2 of them, though. I'm not sure how strong they'll be on the third lane. The advantage to Miller just slightly on the inside. 2 laps to go.
Well, there's some guys that need friends, and Eberhardt's one of them, and so is Sam Nieto. They both lost a few of their teammates to crashes. I think now's a good time to make some friends.
At this point, you'll work with anybody, even if he's your arch rival. Just try to use somebody to help yourself out. 4 cars in the middle lane, 2 on the outside. Everybody else works the bottom. Miller still leads, pushed by your defending Cup Series champion, Andrew Faridas. The 5th one, Bobby Krug. You're on board with him. 3rd in line. They need to get to the white for this to be official.
All right, who tries to make the move to make that outside work? Someone besides Eberhardt's got to do it, and I think it's going to be the 77.
3rd lane falls apart. Oh, they're not coming to the line, but they take the white flag. So this race will be official, and Dane Cruz goes to the race lead. It was Liam Sheen who got turned. He is out of it. This one's going to get raced out to the end. Cruz goes up top the block. He gets tagged. Is he going to fall back in the middle now? Eberhardt tries to squeeze 4 wide. De Blasio on the 3rd lane. Now they're going to wreck behind. Cruz gets tagged. 2-horse race. Miller leads. Farinas challenge to the outside. Side by side. They cut and across the line. Jeremy Miller wins the SimSeats 250. 6 1/1000ths of a second, and it ends on his lid.
Guys, there's a great race coming to the line here between 2 Rex cars.
Well, we said the last lap could get crazy, and lived up to the ticket.
Oh, I don't think that 27 is going to be doing any victory donuts anytime soon, though.
And by the way, as he sits there turtled on his roof, Andrew Friedon's not happy about the contact coming to the start-finish line. There was a lot to unpack. On the last lap, Jerry Miller is requesting assistance to get on his tires. He wants to go do a burnout, but I don't think he has the engine. No, he does. He's got it. He's going to go and celebrate this win still. There it is.
Wait a second. He was the winner.
Yeah, the one that was turtled on his roof for about a minute. He got a hand getting flipped back over. Look at the smile. He said, "Can someone help me out? Because I want to do some burnouts." And there it is. Your race winner gets to celebrate after all.
Good guy Liam Sheen coming in to be the hero.
Liam Sheen, the one who got wrecked, coming to the white and gets his race basically cleaned out. Liam Sheen had a good look. Here it is, coming to the white flag. There's a spin, but the caution did not trigger in time. It was really only Liam Sheen who gets destroyed. There you go. He comes up and takes a few more. But at this point, we're racing this one out to the end. And a lot happens here, Jonathan, on the back straightaway. Cruz is going to up to block the 21. De Blasio wants to go to a third lane, but the 03's decision right there, Leszczynski, to go with the middle instead of De Blasio helps out Cruz.
Well, helps out up until about here.
Yeah, then he gives him a little bit too much help.
And then the
03
just gets into the 24 and the 51, and then
cleans
it's
him out.
on from
Watch
there.
this.
I don't know
Here
how
it
many
is.
cars were getting involved, but then here's what Freenage is not happy about. The 27 is going to move up the track, little bump, that right there.
And if there's no contact, Freenage wins this race. But how many times
if you're
have you seen
you have to do what you have to do.
Well, and some door bang into the line, you have to expect that's going to come. Not only in this race, but I think in any race. If Jerry Miller goes up, hits him with the quarter panel, takes him out, I think that's foul. I think for the SimSeeds 250 win, that's got to be fair.
And keep in mind what we're competing against here. Jeremy Miller's saying he's a big restrictor plate fan, big super speedway stud. Andrew Freenage won 9 races last year. He's the 27
this could be
is going to
Miller's
fight
best
for
opportunity to lock himself into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's not like the 27 is also, we're talking about a slower car. He's a mid-pack driver through the Winter Series and finished well in the points last year.
So what an end. Jeremy Miller gets the race win here from Daytona. Here's the onboard look with some of the other cars as they came to the start-finish line, and there's that front row seat. What a finish, I think. If not one of the best finishes we've seen here in a RealSimRacing season opener. What a way to kick off our 10th year of RealSimRacing Cup Series action. That's how it ended. Put the trophy on top and shove it into the trailer. Jeremy Miller is your race winner of the SimSeeds 250. We will take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we will talk with your top finishers. Jeremy Miller, a SimSeeds 250 champion. We'll talk with him next as RaceSpot's coverage of the SimSeeds RealSimRacing Cup Series continues.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
It ended in sparks, but it also ended in victory for Jeremy Miller, your SimSeats 250 winner, as we welcome you back into RaceSpotTV's coverage of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. With Dylan Coyle, our producer Hugo Luis, and us upstairs, Jonathan Burke, myself, Evan Basok, I want to welcome you back. Let's take a look at tonight's full race results from our season opener. 6 1/1000ths of a second, the difference between Jeremy Miller and Andrew Frinage. It'll be interesting to hear from those drivers post-race on how they feel that one ended. Gary Weaver, a top 3 also. We'll get a word with him. Nieto and Casto, your top 5. Kyle Trudell, Stephen Price, Bradley Burke, Benazzi Major, and Anthony Fredericks, the top 10.
Looking down the order, Agnell Phillip, Ross Cato, Kyle Kamer, and Chris Brabble getting 11th through 14th. Brian Shameless, a very quiet race day for him, but still comes from 15th. Joseph Tice in 16th. Garrett Hess was running well mid-portion of the race, but kind of the same as the Winter Series. Talladega fell off a little bit. Trevor Trigger was caught up in one of those first incidents. Shane Parrish recovered from being a lap down very early on to finish 19th. And Tom Morano able to limp that car home from an early pit error to finish 20th.
And continuing on down through David Washington, Dane Cruz, Marius Leschinski with Eric and Adam de Blasio back-to-back, 24th and 25th. Brandon DeBuey, Daniel Eberhardt, Michael Mosier, Bobby Krug, Grant Davis, all in the top 30.
Checking down the order, Liam Sheen almost got sent to Cape Canaveral coming to the final lap of the race. Unfortunately finishes 31st. Dylan Coyle finishes 32nd. Nick Silver in 33rd. Michael Kaczynski in 34th, James Ross in 35th, Thomas George, Rhett McBride, Michael Araya, Joe Yakes, and Nicholas Mara wrap out 35 through 40.
At the very, very back, Matt Mara, Sean Kalist, and John Rodden. That's a look top to bottom at your SimSeats full race results. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from amateur to the pro ranks and more. Everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too, so their passion for driving makes them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, any day, any car, on any track. Visit sim-seats.com for more information. Well, let's go trackside and go to Daytona International Speedway Victory Lane. We are talking with your SimSeats 250 race winner, Jeremy Miller. Jeremy, congratulations on the win. We'll talk about how it happened, what it means in a moment. But first, tell us about those final 2.5 miles.
I thought my race was over in perspective of winning when Dane got clear of me, and out of 2, he just moved up, and I got under him, and Andrew shoved me through and got the lead back, and that pure luck there. If he stayed on the bottom, I don't think I have a chance at winning that race whatsoever. And then they all wrecked behind me and Andrew going for 3 and 4, and I thought I had a 1 there, to be honest, and he just got a super run on me out of 4, and I did what I had to do to win. I wasn't trying to put him in the wall, kind of like neck-coated a little bit. I was just trying to hit his door and slow him down, so you just try to stop his momentum and beat him to the line. I feel bad that it hit him as hard as it did, but I mean, I had to win that. I mean, I led 48 laps. I was gonna hate myself if I didn't do what I had to do to win that race.
Another look at the contact and the thrilling finish to the start-finish line. You know, you talk about the 46 laps led. I mean, this was a race in which you and Dane and some other drivers stayed up front for a lot of it. Andrew kind of went for the strategy of hanging back and getting into the mix late. What did you learn, and maybe what was the benefit to being up in the mix all night? Because, some other drivers seemed to be worried, wanted to play it a little bit safer. You guys were in the mix and up front for most of this night.
Yeah, I just learned what every little run is like. I mean, when Dane got clear of it, I mean, it was what I was trying to set up the entire race, is when the guy on the outside gets clear of me, I do everything I can to get right back to that top, because once you get third car in line on the bottom, you're going backwards from there. You're not going to really get back forward, so that's what I've really just the entire race tried to perfect, those runs, pushing the guy that's leading so I can clear the top line myself and jump right back up there and just stay in front. You're not going to win this race from 10th. You got to be there, and I chose to stay there the entire time, and it worked out.
You mentioned that you needed to win this race. I think it goes a little bit beyond just the fact that you didn't want to spoil a good performance in the season opener, because again, assuming you could make the minimum start requirement and points position, you're already in the playoffs after week one, and I know that that's got to mean a ton.
That's definitely huge, and I don't feel so bad taking that away from a guy like Andrew, because we know he's going to go out and win races this year, and even if he doesn't, he's going to point his way in. The guy's one of the top level drivers on the sim, and he's a class act, and just really appreciate being able to race like a guy with that for the finish at a place like this.
We'll let you get out of here and get to celebrate. I know I had to wait a little bit to celebrate anyways, so you got flipped over to do some burnouts. But as the race winner in this SimSeeds 250, who do you want to say hi to?
I just want to thank all my guys at Harambe Racing, my family out in Florida that's watching tonight. I'm sure they're very happy. Got all the guys at HBR. I can't stress enough how helpful they are. Brian Chambliss, Jaron Weinmaster couldn't be here tonight, but we're looking forward to having him aboard and full good season along with him. And then Connor Horn, one of my best friends and one of the better guys on the sim. Everything that I know has been from studying him, working with him, tips from him. He's just absolutely why I am where I am in the sim today.
Well, happy that you were, because it was a thrilling finish. I know that all of us upstairs enjoyed it. But first off, thank you for being a part of RSR, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Race winner tonight in the SimSeeds 250 opener, 6 1,000ths of a second in favor of the 27 of Jeremy Miller. We'll go to the flip side of that battle. Sparks, a wreck, and only one checkered flag. Second place tonight is Andrew Farinaj, and Jonathan, you're with him.
Hey, Andrew, it's Jonathan. Do you have a copy?
I got you.
Well, you started towards the back of this race. You had to go find and make some friends. What was the real strategy out there, and the toughest part, I think, of it, being an independent driver, trying to make your way through the field and make sure the strategy was right?
Yeah, it was just finding people to pit with. I was able to do that with some old friends, a lot of good guys in this league that they let me tag along. And once that was done, it was kind of every man for himself, just trying to get that extreme outside to work. We finally did. I got to give big thanks to Bobby. Me and him worked that extreme outside. We were able to get up front, and from there it was just chaos. Try to get lucky and finish where you did.
And you were kind of in that mid-pack a lot of the time. And how clean and good was the racing? Obviously, we made it almost 80 laps without almost a caution to be seen. Like, how good was it in that mid-pack area where you were a lot of the night?
Yeah, for the most part, honestly, it was terrifying every lap. I don't know what it was about tonight, but the cars were kind of swerving. Tires mattered, and there was not a safe spot on that track, is what I'll say. There was a lot of people checking up, and you just never knew if someone wasn't paying attention, you could get wrecked. So to go 80 laps, though, it's just saying what this field can do. It's really impressive, and towards the end, we were even early racing. We didn't really have that big wreck till really late there.
And then just talk to us about that final drag race to the line. It was just you and Jeremy at the end. You had a run, but he was trying to do everything he could to make sure he got it.
To be 100% honest, we keep it to myself. All the fans watching, you guys watching, you can make your own calls. I don't want to skew that in any way. I'll say this: not something I would do ever. I gave room. I kept coming up, giving room, and what happened. Anybody watching, you can decide for yourself. I don't want to skew that in any way.
Well, you still got a good result here, second place points finish on a long season. It may have not have been the win you were looking for, even though you have yet to win here at Daytona and RealSimRacing, but you still have plenty of other tracks down the line and some that are really close up in the schedule that you can get some wins at. So this is a good starting point, I think, at second place, right?
Yeah, I keep saying it. We've done a lot in this league. We've won championships. We've won a lot of tracks. This is the only one that I'm missing is the win here. So, be 100% honest, it's very disappointing. Coming off of turn 4, I thought we had it, and we'll come back next year and try again. But definitely looking forward to this year. A lot of good tracks coming up. Not excited for all the road courses, but for the most part, the playoffs, if we do make it that far, are tracks I like. So good to be looking that far ahead, but still a long season to go.
And before we let you go, Andrew, anyone you want to thank, any sponsors or anything like that? I see you got a new one. We're not just a plain white car anymore.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited to bring the sponsor on for this year. Big thanks to Brock Drury for letting me do that, bringing it on. It's the Sim Racer film. It's going to be a film on Amazon in early 2022. You can check them all out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the Sim Racer film. Very, very excited. It's a really cool project. I am blessed that they let me represent it, and I hope I did them proud today.
All right, well, thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to let you get out of here, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time as you enjoy your week off next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.
That was defending champion Andrew Freenage. It was a close battle at the end there, but now we're going to talk to third-place driver, RaceSpot's own Gary Weaver, surviving that last lap crash. What did you see going through there?
Chaos. Just pure chaos. Oh my goodness.
You finished without a hood.
I didn't notice that until I actually looked at the replay, and I was like, oh, I didn't have a hood there. So, man, it's one thing to do that on monitors or triple monitors, whether it's 1 or 3. It's another thing to do it in VR, where it's even more terrifying. So, I still can't believe I actually survived that. I mean, that you were right. I clawed that thing from 21st to 3rd somehow, and wow.
And we'll talk about that little bit of a lucky break on that second pit cycle where that caution came out and you were the only one in your group to beat the pace car to pit road and retain that lead position.
I don't even know how I did that, actually, as the... It was actually an impulse decision of to pit a lap early, essentially, earlier than I planned. So I was thinking, I'm going to pit with these guys because this time I would have someone to go with. And then I forgot to check my tires, which apparently turned out to be a good thing. I was planning to get right side tires and fuel, but I ended up getting fuel only. As soon as I noticed I didn't have tires checked, I figured I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Next thing I know, the caution comes out, and then I'm somehow leading.
And talk us through like those final few laps. You were kind of stuck there on the bottom, really nowhere to go. Did you think about making a move to the top? Did you think about pushing and shoving someone if need be?
With me being with plate tracks, pushing terrifies me because I feel like if I do one wrong move, then I'm going to be in huge trouble for wrecking probably the entire field. So I figured I'm going to do the same thing I did with the Daytona 500 that I've always been doing, is just sit back, stay on the inside lane, because at least I know I have an out if anything does happen, and just try and get to the end at the very least.
All right, before we let you go, Gary, any guys you want to thank, any sponsors or anything like that?
Definitely McConey Setup Shop for sponsoring me for this month at least. Really appreciate it. Hopefully he enjoyed the finish as much as I did. That was insane. I wish the hood was still there, but hey, at least there's 3 other logos on the part of the car. So definitely thanks to McConey Setup Shop as well as you guys at RaceSpot for doing all that you do, and broadcasting the race, of course, and seeing how all of this happens.
All right, well, thank you, Gary. We'll let you get out of here, and congrats on the P3, and hopefully we get to see you back up here in the booth sometime soon.
No, hopefully. As far as I know, I redeemed myself from the Winter Series. That's enough for me.
And a big thanks, as always, to our top 3 finishers for giving us a moment in chatting, and we're now in it. 1 down, 29 rounds to go for this SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series. And to the point, Jonathan, that you had made talking about some of these guys, I think a great race, right? It's Daytona, going to have some wrecks, but they were, I think, pretty disciplined, all things considered. We got to nearly 80 laps into this race without a yellow. Did have a couple of big ones, but when you can have an 80-lap green flag run at a plate track and a door-banging, trade painting, or paint trading, photo finish, I don't think there's anything else we could really ask for.
No, it was good racing to the end. I'm a little sad that wreck happened going into 3 or 4. I wanted a 3 or 4 wide race to
They
the
were
end.
go-
but
they
I
were
think it
going
was just
for
kind
it.
of
They would've
inevitable. The
delivered.
pinball
Yeah.
kind of started. The side drafting got a little chaotic, and it just kind of happened. But for some guys, it's a great result. For others, it's a little bit of disappointment. Again, Andrew talked about it. He's raced here 8 times and now 9 times. RealSimRacing, a Cup Series, still winless at Daytona. He's got to win at Dega to his name, so that's only 17 races at restricted plate tracks, only 1 win. So it's probably a little frustrating for him, but it's still a good poise today considering some of his other rivals were flying and wrecking right behind him.
Or not even in it, in the case of Matt Danson, who's going to be back with a vengeance. Because, again, qualifying will change into the next few weeks. All 50 drivers will be allowed to attempt to qualify in single-car queue, and we'll find out who gets bumped out of the top 43 right before the start of the race. And, of course, we got a week off. We got an IROC opener back here at Daytona next Monday on a race spot. But then we kind of get into the, I don't want to say the meat of the schedule, but kind of where this thing's going to be won and lost, I think, in many cases, right? Intermediate tracks. We're going to go to Vegas. We're going to go to Homestead. Then you got a preview of the championship race in Phoenix for round 4. Week off, and then who knows what's going to happen for the Bristol Dirt Race. So these next 3 weeks, Jonathan, I think will show us maybe, who are going to be those real forces to be reckoned with.
Those real sim racers.
There you go.
You couldn't resist, could you?
Nope.
Who will be the real sim racers? Because if you can have success at those tracks against this field, you got a good shot this year.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this point with Freenage. He's won half the races he's run at Homestead. He's won twice at Las Vegas. He's won 3 times at Richmond. He's won 4 out of his 6 attempts at Phoenix. These are tracks that are Andrew Freenage tracks that I'm going to be scared of, especially if tonight frustrates him. I think a frustrated, angry Andrew Freenage and a frustrated Matt Danson for not even being part of the show. I think for the rest of the field, that's scary, almost. And for the rest of the field, this is kind of the tone setter right here. This first set of races, this is going to set the tone for your season.
Yeah, as if those guys ever needed any more motivation, right? Now they're in a spot where they got them to dig with. Dylan, I'll go back to you one more time as one of our real sim racers. What are you looking forward to or looking to get out of this next stretch of 3 weeks and kind of try to build upon a good start to 2021 with the ultimate objective, I think, trying to get a playoff spot?
I need to throw this race away and move forward to Homestead because this was frustrating. This is extremely frustrating. I feel like I'm snake bitten whenever I have a nice run. I mean, in the Winter Series, I'm looking at Lucas Oil. I'm looking at Dega there. Yeah, just so many times. It's frustrating. So, haven't driven the Cup car at Homestead yet on the sim, actually. So this is going to be a little bit of a new thing, especially with the wall riding we're going to have to do. I
hope you like the wall. It's a very nice wall. It's very nice and blue painted.
I wonder what car was on the broadcast, because I think I messed up which car I was going to have uploaded to Trading Paints.
You got a lot, so you're keeping us on your toes. I see.
I had it was a mismatch. It was supposed to be a car from a galaxy far, far away today, and
he called me earlier about this too.
I did, and the yellow numbers were on the car, and I just wow, love that for me. Yeah, no, it's a race I need to forget about. Just keep moving forward. Except we are going to Daytona, staying at Daytona next week for IROC. Are you racing in that?
I have the wheel. We'll be on track. No promise I make the feature.
Who's going to? Oh, is there?
We'll try.
I don't know anything about the format for IROC. Did I not read the rule book? I did, but it was a long time ago.
We'll get some practice in too. I think we might need it because it's been a while. I just want to do good because IROC's going to be on TV this year. Last year when it wasn't, I lost the championship by 2 points. So
I will not let you go into that race without being on my stream.
If I suck, Dylan, every time we criticize him, Jonathan, for the rest of the Cup Series schedule, he's like, remember the IROC race at Daytona? Or remember this there?
Listen,
I'm not going to be able to get away from it.
He will hold it against you.
I know. I'm prepared for it.
Look at the races I've had.
Hugo will, Arjuna, if he's in the booth, I'm sure I'll hear from everybody.
I will tell you this. I'll make a pact with you, Evan. I will not hold it against you if you do poorly, because look at my record so far. No top 10s. 11 races in, actually I guess 12 if you count the duels. Haven't even gotten above 12th in a race so far. So
if you're not tired of Daytona yet, we got one more week left. That is next Monday with the IROC Series opener. Until then, though, that's it for us here tonight from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. So on behalf of the entire team at RealSimRacing, for our partners at SimSeats, and your broadcast crew tonight, for Dylan Coyle downstairs with Hugo Luis, Jonathan Burke, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate the number 27 of Jeremy Miller, your SimSeats 250 race opener winner here tonight for the World Center of Racing. IROC is next Monday. We are going Cup Series racing again, though, in 2 weeks' time from Viva Las Vegas. Until then, that race and every race of the 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Until next time, good night.